Hi, everyone, and welcome to our Team Agreements virtual summit on reducing common disagreements in the classroom. As many of you know, whenever you have people from different backgrounds, varied values, and perspectives working together in a small space for more than 6 to 8 hours, there are bound to be disagreements. And often, when I'm working with groups, one of the most frequent questions I get is, how do we develop really good, strong, positive relationships between our teaching teams? Here to help us answer that question is Debbi Sluys. Debbi has close to 30 years in early childhood development and is currently a multi-site preschool director. Most recently, you might have seen her webinar on leadership strategies for multi-site programs within the Early Childhood Investigations website. And during her work, Debbi's gathered a wealth of valuable knowledge about the power of mindset, visioning, and success, and is here to share that with us using her strategies of using vision boards to build strong teaching teams. Welcome, 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 Debbi. I so appreciate you being here with us today. We've had several conversations about this topic, and so I appreciate you spending time to come on the interview with us. And I know right off the bat, everyone wants to know, the big question is, okay, so tell us about vision boards. What are they and how do they work?
Well, mine is right there in the background. I don't know if you can see that. That is my version number 2. So it's a board that is to live an intentional life. So the images that are on it represent your dreams, your goals, what you want for your life. So, and I stress in my workshops that it's important to have images because I think as women, we tend to, at least I think most women from my experience, gravitate to words. We like quotes, like even at the end of my email, I've always put, I have a quote from Brené Brown, like, you know, in my house, I have vinyl letters, I love quotes, but the power is really in images. Words complement the images, but the energy is produced from the images that are on your board. So it's about living an intentional life. There's only so much real estate on your board. It's not like Pinterest where you just pin, 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 pin. You need to make choices about what is most important in your life. And that's what goes on the board. Does that give you a good overall view?
Oh, yeah. So once again, I have to unpack that a little bit because there is so much in it. So one of the first things that came to mind for me is that when you leaned over and showed us your vision board, I noticed it was framed, which for me came up around the idea that this is so important that I want to capture it and put it in a prominent place. So can you, say a little bit more about that? Because I don't know that I've ever seen a vision board framed before.
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you for noticing that. You are very astute at noticing details, and I appreciate that. So yes, I do have this one framed because it is very precious to me. I actually let participants know that it will become heart art. That's what I call it. And I would say that most people, once they raise the board and they've got all the images on it, it goes from just being a foam core board to something very precious to them. The other thing that I choose this format versus say a cork board or something that you would just put magnetic is that there's something very committal about the adhesive, about gluing your images to your board. So it's like, it's a declaration. This is what I want for my life. This is my goal and I'm committed to it. I'm going to glue it on there. The other thing that you might see that would make my board different, say from some of the other boards you might see online, is mine is less collage looking. Most vision boards, if you go online, they're very like high school collage. But what you said about respect and about raising the overall importance with the frame, it's also, I ask participants to think about leaving white space. So if you think about it like margins in a book, where you could actually put notes, but it gives the mind, it gives the eye a place to rest. Because if you think about a book, like if it was all the way across, your eye would just, it would be jumbled. Whereas this gives the eye a place to rest, and it also gives each image a place of honor and respect. And the whole point of a vision board is the focus. So the vision board itself, the activity, it's just the beginning. It's just the start of the process. where the images and where the things will manifest into your life is when you begin to focus on it. So I often refer to it like a new puppy. Like you have to pay attention to it or it'll become very sad. So, you know, it's about focusing on it every day. So those are just a few things that I talk about with protocol around making a dare to declare vision board.
Okay, so so I have to unpack more of this now because you're bringing up so many. I think a word for it is criteria around a really powerful vision. So you already talked about having that frame and that, and also putting it in a place of prominence so that it's there, you're seeing it, you're talking about, you know, like a new puppy, a new idea of these things come into our life, we want to give energy to it, we want to pay attention to it. That doesn't happen if it's, you know, behind your desk, under the chair, you know, underneath the bed. So placement is key. The other thing you talked about is the intentionality around building a really powerful board. So you talked about the white space around each picture, so that one, you're talking about, you're honoring it, it has its own place and space in that real estate. And two, you talked about giving the mind a place to rest. And it instantly made me think about, oh, okay, we talk about visual strategies all the time in our classroom as a third teacher, right, to help support the instruction that we're doing. And it made me think of this in the exact same way, is that often in our classrooms, there's a lot of overstimulation visually, right?
Mm-hmm.
We get things up in our room, they're usually instructional or they're child-based, and that if we don't rotate them out or give intention to them, then they can be overstimulating for our children, right?
Yes.
So when everything goes up there, nothing becomes important, right? So
Yes,
there's
exactly.
a quote around that. So I love the intention around the board as well. And when we start thinking about that word intention, we see it all the time in our work as educators. And so my question becomes, how do you introduce the vision board to staff in such a way that it's not, you know, woo woo, so to speak, and really serves them in terms of building that strong teaching team and that positive workplace culture?
Mm-hmm. So I think that, at least I'm speaking in Ontario, but I'm almost positive is across the United States as well, we do a lot around documentation. So I think that there's a connection between the reason why we document children's work and their day. It's more than just letting families know that, you know, they're getting value for their money. It's also about discovering the joy in our work and about learning more about the children that we're with. It's about our living together. So when I think that I can appeal, this is why this is why I found vision boards, because it connects so much to what we're doing with early years. So when we document children's work and when we seek out images, that it gives us that freeze frame to look more deeply into what the child was doing, what the activity is, what their emotion was around it, what they were learning. But then it also gives us this deeper sense of joy and satisfaction for our work as well. So I'm trying to think about your original question. I'm sorry, I got off on a tangent around documentation. So, to introduce it. So I think there is a natural progression that if a supervisor administration is wanting to introduce vision boards, to start with the documentation around children, and then thinking and challenging educators to think about their own images they may have in their home. So people think about this as sort of a woo-woo idea, or it's so far out there, but if you think about what you have in your home, I would think that you probably have family pictures, those that you love, pictures of happy times. I'm thinking about my bedroom. I have a photo of a really large canvas of a beach because I love and how that makes me feel. Just here in my office, I'll just turn this here. I have this large canvas here that's of the outdoors. I've done that because I'm in a basement office, but it makes me feel like I'm outdoors, and again, images will make you feel. So I think relating it back to what they already have at home, what they're already doing within their classroom, the jump into making a vision board isn't going to be that far off. And then also talking about how to maintain and to feel positive about themselves, about their day. They may want to just start with an exercise around gratitude. So challenging the educators, what are you grateful for? And can you create a habit around that? And it takes 21 consecutive days to create a habit. So I have a little booklet here that I give to participants that attend the workshop, but I did this also with the educators on my team. I have a team of about 70 that I lead and multi-site, and I challenge them to think of 3 things every day that they're grateful for. And for some educators, that was very difficult because they are busy women. I have a couple of men too, but mostly women. And like, especially if they're in their 30s, they've got young children, they're just zooming through life. And to stop and think, well, what am I grateful for? So to have that exercise. So initially, some women were like, okay, I'm grateful for, water. I'm grateful for a good night's sleep. I'm grateful for, the fact that I combed my hair this morning, and then, but as they got into the habit of finding 3 things that they are grateful for the 21 days, it became easier because things became more apparent because they were being more present and mindful. And then again, if you have a little booklet like this and it's filled with things that you're grateful for, imagine the energy that pops off this. I actually had a lady, she works for Children's Aid, and she finished her little booklet, and she said she brought it to work with her and set it on her computer because her work environment can feel very stressful, toxic, but this feels like it sort of radiates positive energy with all of her gratitude in it.
And what a great reminder. So one of the things that we're talking about is strategies around building that positive workplace culture. And as you were talking about gratitude, what came to mind for me was the shift, especially when you have workplace cultures that may not have been positive in the past, or you have teaching teams that are struggling with, that anger or resentment that comes with unresolved conflicts. And so we talk about helping staff, find ways to be proactive and work on conflict within team agreements. And what connected for me around the gratitude was, what a great strategy for restorative practices, right? Because we talk about that as it relates to children, especially children with challenging behaviors. But what about adults with challenging situations? And the idea of putting into practice, or even a challenge, what a great challenge that would be in a center of asking staff for 21 days to find things that are positive about the organization and or their colleagues. And that shift from this negative mindset of, oh, this isn't right, or this isn't working, or this person did this to me, to that positive or strength-based approach, right? So kind of like that appreciative inquiry that we're looking at and focusing on what is going well, what are the strengths of those around us, and how can we pay more attention to that? Because as you said, and I'm not going to say it as well as you said it, what we pay attention to grows, right? And we say that for our children all the time, but this is a great strategy for putting this practice into place for adults, which I absolutely love. Yeah. So, oh my goodness, when I think of some other things that have come up for us, we talk about the word declaring in our conversations before. You've talked about it's not just about creating the vision board, and you even said it here today with us, that the vision board is just the beginning of this process. So can you talk a little bit more about what do you mean when you say declare? Because I know that's up on your website as well.
Sure. So I would say it's in a couple of different spots. During the workshop, I asked participants to say aloud out loud what they're looking for. So if they are, one of their goals is to learn a musical instrument. I actually had this as an example. So in one of our workshops, I had a woman who wanted to learn to play the piano. It was her educational goal. Sometimes we don't think about that. We think about strictly scholastically, but what do you want to learn? She wanted to learn play the piano. So within minutes, someone found an image. It was like of the pedal, you know, of an old piano, like the pedal. Yes, that'd be perfect. Someone else is on their phone and they're like, oh my goodness, you're not going to believe this, but my friend is getting rid of her piano. Would you like a piano? Within like 10 minutes. So she had her image, but she had a piano. A week later, this was after the workshop, I had someone else from that same workshop contact me and said, could you put me in contact with the lady that wanted piano lessons, because I was mentioning it to my husband and my husband has offered to give it to her for free. So within a week, this lady had a piano and free piano lessons. So the power of speaking your want, your desires, what do you want out loud is really important in terms of you hearing it, your subconscious hearing it, but those around you. So, you know, pulling together this cloud of cheerleaders, of resources that will be available to you. So that's one part. And then the other is when the board's complete is also saying it out loud in a way of declaration, like I will. So instead of saying, you know, I hope, or maybe I'll do this, or I really want to go to Italy, say, I will go to Italy. I will learn to play the piano, or I will be a pianist. Or I will be a singer. I had one of our educators came and she wanted to write a book and no one knew about this. It was just one of her bucket list, and one of her secret desires was to write a book. And so she timidly said it to me and I said, can I share that with the group? And she said, I guess, yeah, okay. She was very shy about it. And I said, does everyone know that, you know, she wants to write a book and that she will be an author? And she's like, oh, I don't know if I want to be I'll be an author. I said, oh no, you will be an author. So again, as she started to warm up to the idea, as she was finding images, other educators were saying, would this make you feel like you're writing a book? Like, what kind of image are you looking for around this, you know, creating of this book? And so she found the right image and other people were helping her with that. So amazing. Just all of a sudden, the educators saw each other in a new way, an enlightened way. They didn't see one-dimensional, another colleague educator or what they thought she was, but all of a sudden they see the educator, the author. And so when at the end of the workshop, when she declared, I am an author, it was emotional for her, but it was very, very powerful.
Wow. Okay. So as usual, I got to unpack that because there are so many different layers in there. And so I'm looking at my notes really quick because I was like, oh yeah, this is great. You know, let me capture that. So several different levels. So one of them was just the emotional connection between staff as they declare this out loud in front of each other, and watching us stand up and own that, right?
Yes.
And there's this sense of vulnerability, and I noticed that you talk about it's at the end of the workshop or the time together, so that along the way this sense of safety has been created and collaboration. Yes. Because while they're looking for images, they're declaring what they're looking for, and you already have the group supporting each other in finding those images. So it's like this wraparound, what I call it, on a very deep level of support, which allows those deeper connections to come forward, as well as at the end, the idea of I'm going to stand up and say this and share this with others, and then others actually kind of not only recognizing, but as you talk about it in our subconscious, these things we start to notice, right? Without even thinking about it, like the example around the piano, you know, not even thinking about it, but we have all of these resources and connections around us. And then as soon as we hear those things, then it's quite easy for us to start reaching out to those resources and providing it for each other.
Yes. And you start to recognize and see them for yourself. They may have been right there. An example I use is, you get a new car and you think, oh, like it's pretty unique. And then you drive off the lot and all of a sudden everybody has got the same car, but that may have been around you before, but you hadn't noticed it because you hadn't focused on it. So once you begin to focus, and when you have it in really concise, clear images on your vision board, then your mind is going to find ways to bring that to you. And that's the law of attraction.
Yeah, and so when people hear that, again, it kind of takes us back into the, the woo-woo world and the word manifestation. Yep, there's so much science around that in terms of exactly what you said. That's why we say it, for our children and need to use it for us as adults. What we give focus to grows. So having that in our awareness, we're going to notice those things are around us, and that's going to increase our intentionality. So we talk about that all the time when we talk about being strength-based or using appreciative inquiry. It's about noticing those, bright spots out there, what's working, and asking ourselves to notice more of it so we can do more of it intentionally. And it kind of takes us full circle back to your vision board, which you shared with us, because part of that intention is keeping it in a prominent place. So can I ask you about that in terms of the work that you do with staff? Is what do you encourage them to do once they're done with their vision boards? How do we keep that work going or capitalize on that momentum?
So before the participants leave, I would have them already declare that as well, like where is it going to go and why? So I also challenge people to think about, is it going to be a public spot or a private spot? So is everyone that comes through your home or wherever you're going to put it in your workplace going to be as excited about your board as you are? If they're not, because it's a very personal thing, then you may want to have it in a more private place because they don't deserve to see your board. They don't deserve to comment. Anyone that sees your board should be as excited about the goals that you're setting as you are. So be discreet around that, set boundaries. For me, I have mine in my bathroom. I put it here today because I wanted to show you for this talk, but typically I have it in the bathroom on the back of my toilet so that I'm seeing it in the mirror when I'm brushing my teeth, because I brush my teeth twice a day at least. And that way I have it there. And again, it's a bit more private for me. But I also have it on my phone. I have it as my screensaver. So it can be, it's always in front of me. Actually, I have it here on my laptop. So when it pops up, I'm seeing it there as well. So the more that you can have it in front of you, the better. I have some people have told me they put it on the back of their bedroom door. So it's the last thing they see before they go to sleep and the first thing they see when they wake. And I would say by looking at it at least twice per day, by focusing on it, it's really important. But if you can only do once, choose the evening, because the evening is a really powerful time for your mind. So if you think about, if you've ever read a scary book or watched a scary show, it can show up in your dreams. Well, you can use that power by focusing on your images and on your vision board, because your mind is going to continue to work through what it's seeing and, okay, how can I achieve that for her? And so it's really powerful to focus on that, especially the evening as well.
Yeah, and we've all had that, right? Where maybe we've gone to bed, whether it's a book or a movie, or just we're struggling to solve a problem. There's things that come up, and for me, it tends to be in the middle of the night. For different people, it shows up at different times, but I'll wake up and I'll be like, oh, let me try this, all while I'm sleeping. So we know the subconscious is very powerful. We know that that is the work of our dreams. That's what our brain does at night while it's sleeping. It processes things and it starts to sort and work through things that we've been thinking about. So I can see that as a powerful trip. The other thing that I wanted to ask you about, because it's come up in previous conversations, was this idea of power words. because we spent a lot of time talking about the images, but what about the words that get associated with those images? What are some tips or strategies around those?
Yeah, so my primary focus is images, but I absolutely believe in words and the power of them. And I would encourage, again, this might be something for a director or supervisor if they're beginning the process, is to start with a power word. You might even want to start it with just a collective, like your team, choose a word for them. We did that within our organization where each of our centers, we're multi-site, so 3 of them, the supervisors led them through an exercise where they came to a consensus, which is also a really neat team building exercise. Like, let's choose one word that we all feel really good about. So, that takes some negotiating too. And then they created a craft around it, so to represent the word, and they hung it within their staff room. So it's just a really great way to bring everyone together around feeling good about this word. But it can be done on an individual basis as well. And for me, I've had a power word for the last, I think, about 5 years. My first one was kindness. And it was inspired by a TED Talk done by one of my friends. And well, she's now my friend just because I'm connected with her. And that's how law of attraction works. I didn't know her before. And now we're really great friends and we've done work together. But Ellen DeGeneres all of a sudden took on kindness. And I wrote a blog about it. And it just went crazy, this blog. And but this year, my word is generous and surrender. So both very, very poignant, powerful words. And for me, they are. For others, that might not sit for them and might not resonate. So it can be a very individualistic activity around how that word makes you feel. And I think that's what I keep going back is, how does it make you feel? But to get all on the same page as a team, to be feeling good about one word is really amazing. And then it can be your lens. Keep going back. And I'm thinking one of the teams, it was inspire. So that was something that the supervisor, kept talking about and would bring it back to say, are we being inspired? Or are we inspiring? Or, if you just sort of give them back their own language, give them back their word, and use that as a lens for any of the actions and things that were happening within the center.
So when I hear you talking about that, one of the things that comes to mind for me is that when programs go through visioning, so in Molly, actually her name is, well, I just completely lost the name there. So when I start to think about Cassandra O'Neill's work in the 5 elements of collective leadership, she talks about having people come together and do collective visioning and the power of that. And also Susan McDonald's work, especially her new book, Inspiring Early Childhood Leadership, she talks about using vision boards as well as a way of bringing teams together and not only inspiring them, but begin to think about, what do these words, power words, we would call them, whether it's our vision statement or our values as an organization, or even, program-wide expectations, depending on how you frame it. Those are all power words. How do they show up for us? How do we live them on a day-to-day basis? And how do we, or who do we need to be, I should say, in order for these words to really be relevant for us? So if I were to walk into your classroom, what would I see you doing or the children doing? What would I hear that would really show these words in real life? And so I love that about the work that you're doing, because again, to take away the woo-woo from it, there's actually lots of science behind the work of the vision board, and there's lots of implications within our educational settings. And we're just now starting to tap into that. So I really, really appreciate the work you've been doing around that. And as we start to wrap up our time together, I do want to ask you to share a little bit about your masterclass, because one, there'll be a lucky winner who will get a link to this class. But two, I want you to share with us, what is the masterclass about, and how can we use that in our work in terms of bringing vision boards into our own settings?
Sure, thank you. So the masterclass, I'm really proud of it. It's a videotaped class that was done within my studio that I have specially designed to do vision boards. And it's with 5 of my friends. They are all experts within their field: fitness, personal coaching. So they bring a really neat aspect to the workshop because they're sharing their expertise. So that is part of the videotaping and part of the content. So it's not just me talking, it's very interactive. Thinking about me as an ECE, I love being playful and having things that are fun. So rather just be a lecture style, that's just not how I like to present material. So it's very fun and interactive. It is 8 chapters and 30 lessons. So it's broken up into very bite-sized pieces. You can do it as an individual in your home or with a small group of friends, or a supervisor could do it with her team. So as professional development over a series of, staff meetings, or you can do it in one sitting. It's about 2.5 hours of instruction. And then you'll need time as well for participants to design their board. So you would just need, and I give a checklist in the beginning of what you all need as well. And there's also some additional resources for images. But magazines work really well. So if everybody brought magazines, a foam core board, scissors, glue, you're off to the races. And like I talked about at the beginning around some of the protocols that I have around what is will make a successful vision board. And I haven't, so again, in Ontario, we talk about emergent programming. So I did this is a very emergent process. My curriculum and what I'm offering for the masterclass, I'm not any one person's philosophy. I've taken the best of what I could find and what I learned, and I've been to various conferences around this, and I put that together into my offering, combined with my early years background and my sense of wonder around children and brain development, all together into this amazing curriculum. So I'm really excited about it. It turned out really, really fantastic.
It sounds like it, and I can't wait to jump on and try it. I know I've done a lot of vision boards with my own staff, and especially with teaching teams and asking them to do individual boards and then a collective board, or sharing their boards together to, again, develop that sense of community among them. So I really appreciate you. I appreciate our conversation, and thank you for your generous offer of sharing that with one of our participants. And as we go forward, I would love to continue the conversation with you, and hope that we can do that and do some more work together.
I would love that.
Thank you.